The television is perhaps mankind's greatest achievement. You can shove your wheel and fire up your arse. Television is fucking amazing. From TV shows such as Peaky Blinders, Happy Valley, Line of Duty, Babe Station and the Adult Channel, we're currently living in the golden age of TV, with streaming services such as Netflix, Disney+, Amazon Prime and UK TV Play. There's never been so much choice, but it hasn't always been this way. You see, back in the 1970s and 80s, television was only on for a few hours a day. If you wanted to entertain yourself after 11:30, you either had to read a book or tug one out to the latest copper of Randle by candlelight. It was shit. Proper shit. Shit with sugar on it. Believe me, I was there, it was fucking wank. Television started about 11 a.m, went off at 2 p.m, came back on at 4 p.m, then went off at 11:30 p.m. Honestly, I'm not making this shit up. I think it went on a bit longer at weekends, can't be too sure. Where was I? Television wasn't on all the fucking time like it is now. It went on and off more frequently than a bog light after culling art at Wetherspoons. But this all changed on Monday the 17th of January 1983 when the BBC launched their early morning programme, Breakfast Time. Breakfast Time was developed with the sole purpose of giving the working man a bit of eye candy at the beginning of the day, enabling them to crank one off before they tucked into their Weetabix or Ready Break. And for this sole purpose, the BBC employed hot property Selina Scott to get the men pumping their fists, therefore relieving the pent-up tension of their morning glory and increasing productivity in the workplace. But what about the ladies? Didn't they deserve something? Something to get them to start the day right? Frank Boff. He was alright for your nan, but what about the mums? One man stood out from the rest. His presenting style made him being cheesy than a lactose intolerance diarrhea after a pint and a half of gold top, but he was so sexy that he got bored housewives in the 1980s strumming like a redneck banjo player with Parkinson's. And his name was Francis Wilson. And this is his story. Now, Francis Wilson had a famous dad, ex-Arsenal goalkeeper Bob Wilson, and from an early age showed an interest in meteorology. That's talking about the weather to you and me. His dad Bob said in an interview in the late 1990s, Francis always showed an interest in the weather. He'd quite often say to me when he was a kid, "Dad, it stopped raining, can I go out play?" And it sort of grew from there. Francis did well at school, and in the late 1960s he went to Imperial College London, where he graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in physics. In his autobiography, Look Dad, It's Raining, he mentions his time at Imperial College with fondness.
Imperial College was a lot of fun. You wouldn't believe the amount of gash there was. I was up to the nuts most nights, it was mad. Even an ugly fella would have 10 on the end most nights.
From Imperial College London, Wilson went to work at the meteorological office in London, where he became a Fellow of the Royal Meteorological Society in 1973, and later became a chartered meteorologist.
I sort of just fell into it,
said Wilson.
I wanted to do sex science. You know, where you watch men and women doing some shagging and you sort of just make notes about it. But the job at the meteorological office came up and I thought, fuck it. Why not?
In 1978, he went on to join Thames Television as a weather presenter, stating the main reason to go there was because they made the Benny Hill show at Thames and they had a lot of fit birds running around in their pants. Thames was an unhappy time for Wilson, and he stated that he considered this his dry period in his life, where he probably was down to 1 shag and 8 wanks a week. He felt it was time for a new challenge in his life. And on the 17th of January, life would never be the same for Wilson, and he was an instant success. The phone lines went crazy with women wanting to know more about this mysterious man.
I think it was the brains they craved. They were stuck in their piss, boring lives, and they saw me, a man of science, and I aroused them. If the women want to think about my dick and bollocks, then I'm down with that. Just as long as they're okay with me thinking about their busters.
But it wasn't just bored housewives that Wilson was a hit with. He built up quite a following in the gay community. He stated in a Radio Times interview in 1984,
I don't mind the gay blokes thinking about my dick and balls. That's fine by me. But I won't think about yours if it's all the same to you. It just isn't my thing.
Wilson was well and truly in the big time. His name was on everyone's lips. He became the breakout star of breakfast television and was even asked to appear in a photo shoot in just his pants. Drink it in, ladies. Back when breakfast time started, Wilson became the first weatherman to use computer-generated graphics to forecast the weather, which was, he said, his idea. He also stated back in 1983 that computers are the future, and just imagine if there was a way to link up all of the computers in the world, and the possibility would be endless. He said we could look at ladies' busters without the outlay of a porn mag, and you could probably get pictures of their slice too. This comment can be directly linked to Tom Berners-Lee creating the internet. Francis Wilson became a household name and was offered a knighthood from the Queen, but turned it down and asked for the cash equivalent. During the 1980s, he would turn up all over television. You'd see him on Blankety Blank, Children in Need, and Lovejoy. I fucking adore Lovejoy, I do. But Wilson wasn't happy. He wanted more. In 1993, he decided to leave breakfast time, and the TV-loving nation was in mourning.
Wilson, where are you? Wilson! Wilson! Wilson!
But Wilson couldn't leave the weather world. It was in his blood. He took up the position of bossman of the weather at Sky News, where he remained until 2010. He said in an interview in 2010 that he left because
I have had fallen out of love with the sunshine and rain, and it gets piss boring. When you've said, it's gonna be frosty, for the 10,000th time, you know that it's time to move on.
Inspired by his comments about the internet, Francis took up his hobby of inventing and is credited with holding the patent for the potato peeler, Bluetooth, tungsten tip darts and the flap on the front of your wire fronts that you pull your cock out to piss. But the love of weather was never abated. Abated. Banging word that, isn't it? Abated. Abated, yeah. Oh, where was I? Yeah. But what does Wilson think of weather forecasting today? In a recent interview, he said,
Weathermen and women today are fucking wank, and they'd have no fucking idea if it was raining even if they were outside and piss wet through.
He also said,
Today, modern graphics are so good you could give them to anybody and they would have to try really hard to fuck it up. All they have to do is stand there, point and say, look, folks.
Following up with,
a channel might think they don't need to employ an expert to present the weather, and in the rush to get the most attractive face, nice ass, big jugs, that sort of thing, and overlook the fact that she doesn't actually know what the flying fuck she is talking about. Yeah, it's mainly the women I'm pissed off with.
Then he ended off by saying,
and another thing. Why do people call them Durex? Durex is a trade name, like Hoover. We should all be calling them rubber johnnies, like what we did back in the 1970s before the AIDS.
And when asked if he would ever consider presenting the weather again, he said,
fuck that for a lark. I wouldn't piss on today's weathermen if they were on fire in the street.
But no matter what your opinion of today's weather forecasters is, he undoubtedly changed the face of TV weather for the better. But one thing is for sure, we will never ever see another Francis Wilson.